Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Gums bringing you the Concerned Forum. So, how are we doing today, folks? Another day in Donald Trump's America. Used to be our America. Remember that song? I know I sang it when I was a youngling. I guess you folks probably sang it also. Well, how did it go? This land is your land. This land is my land. Da 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 da. What was it? From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. And hey, Donald, that's the Gulf of Mexico, you dimwit. No such thing as the Gulf of America. That's the thing that really, one of the things that really bugs me about Republicans or MAGA folks or whatever the hell you want to call them. They like to rewrite the map. They want to rewrite the English language. I mean, my God, Gulf of America indeed. The Gulf is the Gulf of Mexico, people. If one of my students in class would put down the Gulf of America, he would definitely get an F. As a matter of fact, I try to flunk him for the whole semester. But what else do we have going on besides Donald trying to rewrite the dictionary? I guess he wants to rewrite the Bible next. Hell, he might as well. You saw how he was all dressed up um, in papal regalia with the crowned hat and what have you. Uh, you know, as I think about it, I'm planning to return to the Catholic Church. I know the Catholics, they like the Marine Corps. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And in their mind, once a Catholic, always a Catholic. Which is cool because that's something else about the Catholic Church. People basically do what they want to do anyway, but they have a certain reverence and a certain respect for the church. That's why the whole uh, sexual abuse scandal of young boys uh, hit us so hard because of the fact that it was really like an attack upon the institution. I'm not talking about trying to find justice for the four kids that were brutalized. I'm talking about the people that perpetrated those attacks. They were the ones that were attacking uh, the institution of the Catholic Church. But what does Donald do? Donald talks about religion, he talks about God, and the Pope dies, and 4 days later, you got Donald dressing up like he's the Pope. And that alone should show us where this guy's head is at. It's a sick case. And speaking about other sick cases, on the way over here, I was looking at this thing about what's he call himself now? Diddy? Feds open case versus Diddy. They're saying he wanted Cassie dead, forced her into sex with strangers. I tell you quite frankly, I um, I got some real serious problems. Um, let my fiance know I'm on the air right now as we speak. My fiance is in Africa. That's where she lives at, and They have they're having infrastructure problems, communication, and the funny thing is, you have a lot of foreigners. By foreigners, I'm talking about Western Europeans and Chinese. How about that? But that's the way it is in most of Africa. And it's funny because the West, including America, had an opportunity to get in on the ground floor with Africa. I'm talking about in terms of infrastructure, roads, bridges, schools, what have you. All they did, the West basically did, especially the United States, they channeled money to the dictators, like Mobutu, people like that, and military training, stuff like that. But the things that really help stabilize and build a society, I don't know. America didn't want to do that. Now, when I say stabilize and build a society, what I mean is that Africa is like the Chinese. Civilizations there go back thousands upon thousands of years. And that's another thing. When you're talking about Africa, you're not talking about a country. You're talking about a continent, right? Comparing Africa to the United States of America, it's like the David versus Goliath. Africa is like the continent itself is huge. Really huge. So it's not that Africa needs America or Europe to basically teach them about civilization. Civilization comes from Africa. Okay, this is not from Black Lives Matter. This is not from the Black Panthers. This is not from loony leftists. Okay, the most eminent anthropologists, uh, doctors of history, they're like the Leakeys, for example, and others will tell you that when man first stood up on his two legs and said, "Wow, those points of light in the sky, what are they about?" When he first did that, when mankind first did that, he did it somewhere in Western Kenya, which is in Africa. Oh, and here's a flash for you. Egypt. Well, guess what? Egypt is in Africa. And just another sideline, our new pope, I got to get his name right, but our new guy, um, he made a good point. And Francis, God rest his soul, uh, which I'm sure he will, Francis also made the same point. We have too many people running around talking about, well, yes, I'm a Christian and, I'm a Christian nationalist. Well, actually, what you are, you're a bullshit artist, and you're trying to somehow use Christianity to cover your racism and your sexism and your bigotry, okay, and whatever else you're trying to cover up. Because, as both popes have said, listen, this is a religion. When you're talking about Christianity, well, let's call it as it is, the Judeo Christian Islamic club, group, organization, however you want to call it. You are talking, and particularly for you Christians out there, you're talking about a group who are followers of the original democratic socialists And the uh, original, I hate to use the term illegal. So let's just say the original unregistered immigrant. And you're also talking about you're talking about in the terms of the colloquial terms, the original brother. So it's really like, hey, what's up, my man? Boom. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Because take a trip over to Palestine one of these days, or Israel. However you want to call it. Take a look at the people there. All right. It is not a Nordic Sunfest. Okay. Them some dark folks over there. Go to Egypt. All right. Those some dark people there. Although what I'm saying something that really doesn't need to be said if I'm in the conversation with educated people. Because everybody knows that people in that part of the world are dark. That's where Judaism and Christianity sprang from. That doesn't mean that people from Europe are not, somehow lesser or what. No, it's not saying that. It's just saying that this is where Christianity, Judaism, that's where, that's the neck of the woods that it came from. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why is he talking all this BS about, the nature of Christ, the human nature of Christ, and so on and so forth? Well, because unfortunately, over the last 500, 600 years, uh, some people, usually people in positions of power, they have used Christianity as an instrument of obedience. In other words, Christ looked like me, Jesus looked like me, so therefore you must obey me. And that's not true. Never was true. But, that was the line that was spewed. As a matter of fact, uh, we lost almost 1 million people, right? A couple million people in the American Civil War. One of the reasons is because the people in the southern parts of the United States, and you had people in the northern part of the United States that were in sympathy with this idea that, slavery was cool. Chattel slavery in America was cool because Christianity justified slavery, which it really didn't. See, and therefore they espoused this belief, and so you have this thing, right, where the only people that can really be Christian are people of the Caucasian persuasion, and that's not true. Does that mean that now that we are starting more and more to see the truth, does that mean that people of a Caucasian persuasion are somehow lesser? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It's just one of them things that happened, right? Christianity started, Northern Africa, the Middle East. This whole business about North Africa, then you have Africa south of the Sahara. Like these are the big, I don't know, check marks or something. Like somehow North Africa is totally different than Africa south of the Sahara. And that's bullshit. I mean, it really is. But for centuries, because of racism, folks were allowed to get away with that nonsense without being, historically challenged. So, yeah, what the Catholic Church is doing or have been doing for the last 25, 30 years, I think it's important, right? Because what the church has been saying for the last 30 years is, hey, man, look, we have our hang-ups, abortion, sex, blah, 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 right? But the basics, and see, this is why I respected Francis, and I respect this new pope that we have, who's originally from Chi-Town. I have so much respect for them because what they're saying is, look, we have certain things that we believe, could be right, could be wrong, but right now, this is where we are at. But there are certain basics which everybody should believe. And if you want to call yourself a true Christian, you must believe this, that we are all the children of the same Father. That being from Europe does not give you some type of free pass. See? That the idea that you're going to take Jesus and use him for your own devices, that's bull. We're not having that. And see, that's why I have found a newfound respect for the church. I had a great respect for the church when I was a kid, and I used to be an altar boy. And I don't know if I ever mentioned it on the show, but at one time, I was starting to study for the priesthood. I used to go up to Tarrytown. There is a seminary up there. And I used to play ball with the seminarians. As a matter of fact, that's when I met originally Lou Alcindor. Then he became known as Jabbar. I actually played against this guy. He was a few years older than me, somewhat older than me. But yeah, I played against him, and it was cool. Because that's the Catholic Church that I remember, thanks to Pope John the 23rd, who said, listen, we're in the 20th century, we're going into the 21st, and the church needs to catch up. And he was the one that opened up this era, I would say, to a certain extent, of rationality to the Roman Catholic Church. And, excuse me a second. Okay, I don't know who that was. Anyway, we, brought the church to a certain level of understanding that the world has changed, see, and that humanity goes forward. We don't walk backwards. And I know you have conservatives here. I don't know what the hell they're upset about. Because if you sit down and you read the New Testament, uh, everything about Jesus Christ is all about a guy that has shockingly liberal beliefs, okay? And, I don't understand why any genuine Christian would be upset with the stand of first Pope Francis, and now this Pope that we have presently, the new guy, right? Um, haven't you ever read the Sermon on the Mount, right? What is it? Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those that suffer for justice's sake. Feed the hungry. Take care of the sick. So et cetera, et cetera. What in the hell is wrong with those sentiments? I don't get that. I really don't. If a Roman Catholic priest who emphasizes the Sermon on the Mount disturbs you, I don't know what to say for you. I don't know what your problem is. All right? Because it's there. It's in the book. Even, the butcher job that, what's his name, King James did back in the 1600s to the Bible. As much as him and his boys chopped the Bible up, they still could not take away from the power, the majesty, and the beauty of the Sermon on the Mount. So, I don't get it. What are you telling me? That Christianity is supposed to be an organization for hate mongers? Yes, show kindness to the immigrant because at one time everyone in this country was an immigrant. Everybody, as a matter of fact, throughout the world, somewhere, sometime in the course of history, I don't know, whatever group that you think you belong to, well, at some time they, right, were immigrants. And see, that's the thing that is, one of the things, Europeans at heart, they really love Americans. They really do. But there are certain character aspects of America that really freak Europeans out. And I can understand why. This whole business about education. We don't worry about educating people in this country. I mean, look, I don't really hear all the talk about we have the greatest university. No, we do a piss poor job when it comes to educating the mass of the public, right? It's like somebody just put out a note, hey, look, we're not going to worry about building a middle class anymore. Really, that's the greatest problem. China, and I'm not a fan of the Chinese government. Okay, we're not one world yet. Maybe 100 years, 200 years from now. But right now, we deal in nation states. I am not a fan of how China runs her nation state. Okay, I have my own opinions, and I have no qualms about expressing those opinions. But what they have managed to do for their society, I think it's stupendous. It truly is. You will find very little in modern recorded history to equal what the Chinese people have done to pull themselves out of poverty. And that doesn't mean that I love the Chinese government. That doesn't mean that I want to go live in China. Okay? Uh, what it does mean, just like when I was in school, I used to play ball in school, and the coach would run those training films on our opposition, right? Watch how they put their center, right? Watch their forward men, how they move them, the way that they move. Watch that guy, 23 over there. He is something to watch with his jumper from the outside. Bob, you need to really be on top of that guy. You need to really keep an eye on him, check him, right? That's what the coach would do. In the military, it was the same thing. These are, your Russian, they're Spetsnaz, they're special troops, right? This is the Navy. They got a good naval force, but they have a problem in terms of equipment, right? Spare parts. They have a tendency not to. Their system hurts them because they're very reluctant to just tell the boss, "Hey, this really sucks. We need to fix it or replace it or whatever." And because of that, they have a higher casualty rate in terms of maintenance than we, the American Navy. But we learned this by looking at the training films, right? Oh, well, okay, this is something here that they're very good at doing, and we need to imitate how they do this particular move, so on and so forth. That's just common sense. So if I tell you that Chinese are doing something really stupendous, blah, 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 it doesn't mean I hate America. It means that, hey, they're doing something that's really great. We need to pick up on some of the things that they're doing to, get us Americans to get ourselves up on that particular level. And see, you always got these idiots like a lot of these MAGA idiots. Oh well, hell, you like them folks so much. Why don't you go over there? And Jesus Christ, how the hell do you make progress in life if you don't learn anything, if you don't read anything? But see, that's where we have gotten in this country right now. You know, look at this whole mess with what do you call him now, Diddy, right? Listen, I tell you straight up, I don't follow the fan magazines, okay, and the fashion and who's doing what, who's sleeping with who. Okay, the only person I worry about is who am I going to sleep with. Okay, that's it. I'm not interested in what someone is doing, after the show and all this other kind of stuff, right? But when you're talking about trafficking, when you're talking about the physical abuse of women, I believe that that's a problem, and that's something that we need to deal with. I tell you, one of the problems that we have in our society is that we have too much of attention. Uh, that people get caught up in this kind of, this type of madness. That's how we wound up with Donald Trump, quite frankly, because he was a part. Excuse me, he still is a part. Okay, of that. What do you want to call it? What, TMZ type madness. Okay, we have, I don't know, intellectually in this country, we have gone really backwards. I'm sorry, but I remember back in the '60s and '70s. I'm sorry, people they came across much more, much brighter, much more cognizant of the world that they lived in, the country that they lived in, as opposed to now. I say it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it. Think about what we've done here in this country. We have taken the guy 31 convictions, right? A guy that has given secrets to our adversaries. Yeah, we know he gave out them damn secrets. Now, come on, let's stop playing around here. You don't keep all those type of secrets, top secret information around your bathroom and all this other crap if you're not doing anything wrong with them. All right. Now, I spent half my time in the Navy with the top secret clearance doing top secret work in the White House and the Pentagon. And I'll tell you quite frankly, I believe that the whole thing about Donald and the top secret information, I think there's a lot more to that than meets the eye. Okay? And unfortunately, you have the Republican Party has turned into a bunch of cowards, quite frankly. This is not the Republican Party I grew up in. And I keep saying that, and I will continue to say that because it is the truth. Because Donald should have been made the answer for a lot of the shenanigans a long time ago, right? The rape, stealing from his employees, not paying people, bankrupting Atlantic City. I mean, I could go on and on. Trying to send at that time, boys, 5 young black and brown boys to the death house, even after they were found to be innocent. Okay? So, Republicans like to talk about law and order. If that's the truth, then why do you have Donald Trump sitting up there as a head of your party and as a head of this country? And we are responsible for that, all of us. Remember, over a third of Americans who are registered to vote did not vote this last election. And I tell you something else, too. Let's be honest about it. A lot of it is racism. But it's not totally racism, if you get what I mean. You have people that voted for Obama twice and then turned around and voted for Trump. What that tells me is that we're not putting out information. You have to remember a lot of we live here in New York, right? New York, Boston, D.C., Baltimore, the whole East Coast thing, right? But you have to realize something. Many parts of America, there's like an information deficit, right? The mass majority of the people in this country don't have any college education, right? So they wouldn't understand about the subtle nuance of things because they don't know. And yeah, I can be disappointed in people because of their racism, but can I be upset or disappointed with people who just don't know, who, as we say in the Navy, just didn't get the word? You look at what's happening to the media over the last 20 years. It's incredible. People don't need to know. I mean, excuse me, don't get the opportunity to know. Therefore, between the racism, right, which unfortunately is a part of American society that we have been working on getting rid of slowly but surely, add to that the anti-intellectual um, feelings that you've had in this country for a long time, and then add to that the fact that people just don't know, are not getting information. I mean, imagine living your life in a place where the only thing you really get is Fox News, and you see what they're about. I mean, my God. So yeah, I can see why Trump was able to get a second time back into the White House, where he shouldn't even be allowed to pick up trash on the front lawn of the White House. I can see why that happened. And remember, like I was talking with Buddy last night, right? You have a situation where one party wants to educate people for the most part, and another party, the other party, doesn't want to educate people. I mean, when the hell was the last time you saw Republicans banging their desk in Congress? We have to do more for public education in this country. When's the last time you had a Republican fight for education like that? I can tell you, Jack Kemp, and that's been a while. We talk about the 70s. Yeah, Jack Kemp. Uh, who else? Bob Dole. People like that. But for the last couple of decades, you haven't. It's always been the Democrats. And what happens? See, the Democrats, they have finally some of them, but it's an improvement, have learned how to fight, right? I got a problem where I live. I'm up in the Bronx, and you know, I I have the greatest respect for Richie Torres. That's my congressperson. But I tell you, quite frankly, his politics, and as far as me being a Democrat, I have some real problems with that. I don't believe that this whole business with what's going on in Gaza. I don't think that the Democratic Party should be supporting that. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm not saying abandon Israel. No. But what I am saying is this thing about constantly, the right wing Knesset government over there constantly taking people's land and blowing up shit. you know, it, it's gone. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. And we as Americans have to admit that we can no longer be a fair, objective observer to what's going on in the Middle East. Can't do it. Can't do it. You can't slaughter over, what's it, 40,000, 50,000 women and children and then talk about fairness. And now, and see, this is another thing when we talk about the racism, because you can be racist against yourself. when those Latinos who voted for Trump, who supported Trump, right? And see, that's another thing. People make the same mistake about the Latino community that they make about the Black American community, right? And especially the same mistake that they make about Africa, right? Not monoliths, no. But when you're dealing in a situation where somebody wants to basically destroy you, then there's no such thing about, well, yeah, I'm a conservative Black American and we all have our different opinions. No, right? That's like saying that, yeah, well, I have my own opinion. I think the Holocaust was a good thing, right? That sounds kind of crazy, don't it? Well, yeah, it is. You got people that believe that bullshit, but yeah, it is crazy. And see, that's, to me, at this point in time in history, to be a Black Republican and not be critical of the Republican Party and what they're doing now, today, in this time period, yeah, you are advocating genocide for your own people. And as an American, we're supposed to be against genocide, period, against anyone. So it's not a question of whether you are a Black dude or are you an American. No, we're both, right? We built the country from the beginning, all right? So yeah, we're both. Just because I love America, that does not mean that I have to sit still for cultural and physical genocide. When you cheer the cop that killed a Black man, right, strangling him to death on worldwide television, yeah, and you support that nonsense, and you support the party that supports that nonsense, yeah, you are supporting your own genocide. Because that could be Black Republican, that could be you, or your son, or even your daughter that's being beaten to death by a rogue cop. I'll call them rogue cops. And the reason I say rogue is because I don't believe in this thing about, let's get that straight. I don't believe in this thing about defund the police. No, that's ridiculous, all right? Every society, you have to have law enforcers of some type, right? You can call them like an island, what do they call them? Guardians of the peace. You can have guardians of the peace, right? You can have the watchers, or whatever. But you have to have something because human beings, by their very nature, are not perfect, right? So, no, I don't believe in defunding the police. That should have never been brought up. However, by the same token, you have some cops out here that, they really should not be on the police force. And then by the same token, you have cops out here that are as good as gold. And I know. Because when I was still in high school, there was a big Irish cop that he looked out for me and he saved me. I'll never forget him. I don't remember did I really ever know his last name? Joe, but he was Joseph, Joe the cop. And he was a beautiful guy, seriously, tough guy. But he was a good man. He was a decent man. See, I don't like this business about just branding whole groups of anything. You got bastards everywhere. The problem that I have is that when you come across bastards like in law enforcement, they should be dealt with. And that's my point. That's my position on the whole thing, quite frankly. But see, when you call yourself nowadays a Black Republican, well, let me tell you something. I look askance, right? How's that word go? Askance. Like, ooh, something here's not right. I look askance at anyone today, 2025, that calls themselves a Republican. I look askance at anyone who says that they are a Republican, but hey, they have problems with what they see. And I also have a problem with someone that says that Democrats are somehow, I don't know, like we have two heads. We're the loony left. And I'm trying to figure out when the standing up for the Constitution make you a member of the loony left. Now, the reason I say these things is because number one, there is no Republican Party right now. So when you tell me that you are a Republican, yeah, I look at you askance. I'm not saying you're a demon, but I am looking at you because I'm trying to figure out where you get this Republican crap from. There's no Republican Party out there. Insulting people, dragging people off the street by masked men. No, that's not the Republican Party that I grew up in. That's not the Republican Party that my pop and my mom worked tirelessly, for candidates and what have you, and who even ran as a Republican from Harlem for the assembly. Okay, that's not the Republican Party that my family was a part of. What we have now, we have basically a junior American fascism type thing. That's not Republican. That's why you see, many good people who were Republican. That's why you see them now on the air on talk shows saying, "No, I left the party." Or, closer yet, the party left me. So let's, just get that out of the way. Donald Trump is not a Republican. And tell me something. What kind of, talking about character, class and honesty, loyalty. I wonder, I really wonder, these good middle American conservative Republicans, what the hell do you tell your kids at home? All right? Especially your teenagers. What do you tell them about behavior? Well, gee, Pop, you supported Trump. Now, here goes a guy, he's crying about universities and anti Semitism. Well, hold on a second, man. This is the guy that invited the country's biggest anti Semites to the White House, to his private house down there in Mar-a-Lago, and you're going to turn around and lecture people about anti Semitism? And we don't see, this is what really bugs me, you know? We don't see these things, right? It's like Americans, I didn't see that. No, son, I didn't see that. Pop, weren't you telling me about, going out with Susan and, you know, going with a woman that you can respect and everything? And you supporting Trump? Guy's a convicted rapist, right? The only thing that saved his butt was a passage of time or whatever. But you're telling me about character? Wasn't this guy a draft dodger? When it came time for him to answer his country's call, he ran away 5 times. Or was it 6 times? He had his pop pay a doctor to keep him out of the military. Funny, when they called Muhammad Ali, he said no, because I'm not going to be a part of your stinking war. Even the guys who were in the military respected him for standing up and taking his stand. What the hell has Trump ever stood for except for himself? And you, Trump supporting Republican, you are going to teach children about character? I don't think so. You want to sit on the school board with my kids going to school and try to make sure that he can't read about what his people have done in the service of this country, what they invented, how they fought and died and gave their lives for that flag to fly, and you are going to talk about character? Oh, we have a lot to do. We got a lot of work to do in this country. Now, for Democrats, like my representative, and like some of those others that we have, they need to go out there and they need to speak up for justice. And if they're not willing to do that, then what the hell are we voting for? You know, why did I vote for you? I mean, quite frankly, who do I see that I would give a look to in terms of running for public office or running for, president in 27? I know the election's in 28, but I'm saying for the campaign and everything, who would I really be willing to go out and sweat for, right? Oh, Bernie Sanders? Yeah. I bust my hump for Bernie. Congresswoman Cortez Ocasio? Yeah, I would bust my hump for her. Yeah, sure would. Uh, that congressman from Maryland. As a matter of fact, you got a couple of them from Maryland. Maryland turns out some good people, by the way. But yeah, what is his name? Jamie? I think that's his first name. Um, but yeah, him, I would definitely go out there and fight for him. And there's a few others who I would go out there and fight for. Uh, the rest of them, who knows? Who knows? But see, that's what the Democrats need to work on. Oh yeah, by the way, because I start running my mouth and I forget the time, but something I've been wanting to say, and I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be a bum, a bunksty. Yeah, I'm becoming like Republicans. I'm inventing new words, but let me put this in here right quick. But this whole thing about, well, the problem with the Democratic Party, and you have some, well known, they're part of the big wheels in the Democratic network because they were attacking this kid. What's his name? Hogg is his name, last name? He is the vice president now of the DNC, or president or vice president of the DNC. And there's supposed to be a civil war in the Democratic Party. And the main thing I think that this war is supposed to be dealing with is the fact that the Democrats, we have been accused of, what is that term that they use? Well, too much ethnic politics, or what it means is that the Democrats are too susceptible to different interest groups. I'm trying to figure out just what the hell does that mean? What the hell does that mean? Now, is it that the fact that black women have such a prominent role in the Democratic Party? Is that what it is? Uh, the race card or the sex card. Listen, the Democratic Party is supposed to be a people's party. All right. Now, the so-called Republicans, their thing is to basically hate people, right? I mean, they say it's not, but you go to areas where you got these Republicans and they're screaming about illegal immigrants and all this kind of crap. I don't know what the hell, to be honest about it, I don't know what the hell an illegal immigrant is, okay? Are you saying that it's somebody that's in the country illegally? All right. Well, I mean, how do you know that? I mean, if I'm coming from, I don't know, El Salvador or Venezuela or Mexico, and I want to come to the United States, and how do I do that? Right? I have to come to the United States to become a part of the United States. And then you got others who just want to, like, I would imagine most like Mexican people who want to come across the border to work and to do the jobs that Americans don't want to do. I sure as hell don't want to go out and pick grapes. All right? So, what the hell is the big deal? You know, it's funny, right? Bigotry, greed, sexism. Look at America is not as big as Asia or Africa, but we have a pretty nice, good piece of land here. And for America to begrudge people who maybe they want to come here for a better way of life, they're running because the country has, it's been taken over by gangs or what have you. I don't understand why that's a bad thing. Because that's what America has always been, a haven. Listen, all you MAGA people out there yelling about, USA, USA. Well, one of the reasons why some people mistake your ardor for ignorance is because of the fact that it's obvious you don't know the history of this country. Okay? Many of you have no bloody idea where you came from. America has always been the home of immigrants. We are not like Europe or even Asia. Okay? There is no, how should I say, no blood test. Is this American blood? you know, the only time we talk about American blood is when American citizens have been in some far corner of the world shedding their blood for freedom. But other than that, there is no, you know, are you born in, uh, like with the Nazis in Germany, right? And they, talk about the master race and all this other kind of crap. America is not about that. You know what it takes to be a real American? I mean, people talk about, well, that does, he don't seem like a real American. Well, you know what it takes to be a real American? You can just raise your hand and you take the oath of allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. That is what makes you an American. Nothing else. Okay? Now, you could be born here, but hell, everybody's born somewhere. But that's it. Accident of birth, or you take the oath to the Constitution. Just like with our military, right? All you military guys out there, remember, you don't owe Donald Trump a damn thing. Okay? You didn't take an oath to Donald Trump. You took an oath to the Constitution of the United States. The reason for that is because when, just in case you have some general or admiral or some leader, even if he or she be elected, who wants to try and use the military for their own power schemes, right? You have the moral and legal obligation to tell them to go jump through a rolling donut because you never took an oath to Donald Trump. You took an oath to defend the Constitution. Now, I hope that we don't have to cross that bridge in America. But if someone demands or tries to put us in the position where we have to cross that bridge, keep that in mind. Okay, keep that in mind. Like if somebody asks you to do something crazy, like invade Denmark or invade Greenland or invade Canada, that would be an illegal and immoral law. Because America has signed treaties basically saying that we will not instigate an unjustified war. So I would suggest that you folks in the military need to start brushing up on the Uniform Code of Military Justice and also start brushing up on American history. And read the Constitution and make notes. Okay? Because you folks who didn't vote, or you folks that decided to vote against your own interest, this is the position that you might have put our military in. This is the position that you might have put a lot of us in. Okay? Let's see here. This is a position that you might have put us in. Because the only thing that separates us from a Latin American dictatorship or, the African dictatorship or an Asian dictatorship, what separates us is the Constitution of the United States. That's all, nothing else. And people need to wake up to that fact. People need to wake up to that fact. We are a nation of laws. We are not a nation of men. And, it's so sad to see a great party like the Republican Party allow itself to be dragged down, okay, to the level of this MAGA nonsense. But here you go again. A lot of this, unfortunately, it's about race. A lot of people out there who voted for Trump, they did everything they could to try and prove that, well, I voted for Trump because of the economy. I've been trying to figure that one out. You voted for Trump because of the economy. Okay, Obama came in, he saved capitalism for America this time around, okay? The economy was bumping when he left the White House. When he says to Trump, hey, man, I left you a great economy, it's not a lie, it's true. And the facts speak, the facts and figures speak for themselves. Trump came in, wrecked the damn economy, okay, and lied to the American people about COVID, saying, oh, it's no big deal, even after he was told that this is something that is, catastrophic. He said, well, I'll lie to the suckers anyway. And that's what he did. And he admitted it. He sat right there in that interview and he admitted it, right? What happens? We get him out of there, right? Joe Biden comes in. Now, I think there's more that Joe could have done, okay, in terms of the quality of life issues in this country. But he definitely worked on it, and he was working on it. And when he left the White House, okay, last year, America had the best economy in the world. No ifs, ands, or buts. Was it perfect? No. Right? Could more things have been done in different areas? Yeah, I'm sure about that. Yeah. And this business about the way we left Afghanistan, listen, I spent too many years in the military, and I know this. The commander on the scene, you get an order, right? It's your job to carry out that order. And if something screws up, that's on you. You don't blame the president because the captain of an aircraft carrier ran into something. Okay? Doesn't work that way. You're going to get mad at the president because the captain of an aircraft carrier got orders to go from the Indian Ocean to the South Atlantic, and on the way he ran over a Japanese fishing boat or something. Well, that's the same thing. God bless the brothers and sisters of the Marines who lost their lives. They are the ones I feel for. I know the feeling of fear. I know what it feels like to be scared. I mean, I ain't no Rambo, but I know what it feels like to be terrified, right? And these poor guys basically got killed, 13 of them. That has nothing to do with Biden, but see, you can't tell them, many Americans that because they don't know. Because not only do we don't go to college, we don't go in the military like we used to. So you let these MAGA people come and spout a lot of garbage, but see, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, or the fact is that they just wanted to talk for the sake of, well, we'll make the liberals look bad. I mean, that's a hell of a way to show respect for the lives that were lost. But that did happen. But see, what does that have to do with Trump's handling of the economy? Trump basically he smashed the economy of the whole Western world. And so-called Republicans, that's why I call them so-called Republicans, and Trump, one of the things about being a political party and being the leader of a political party is to lead and to educate. And they never tried to teach their followers, hey, you don't live on this planet by yourself. You have a thing called an economy. Your economy is connected around the world, whether you like it or not. Look at the clothes that you're wearing. They don't come from the United States, okay? So just to keep a long story short, you need to, if you're going to lead, and that's something that the Democrats we need to work on. We need to set up workshops around the country, right? And not just in solid Democratic districts. Uh, Bernie and Ocasio, what they're doing is beautiful. Go across the country, reach out to all Americans, so that they'll know what the hell is happening. Why is this that? And see, that's what we need to do. That's what Democrats need to do. Republicans don't bother because they figure all they got to do is talk about race or talk about women, right? Or talk about the fact that we want to have elected school boards. Well, that's another part of the problem. I'll tell you straight. I don't believe in elected school board. I believe that parents have a right to go to where their kids are being taught, but they should come in there with a notebook and a pen, because a lot of our parents, they definitely need to take notes and learn things, like a history class, for example. You know what? It's funny to me. I don't know. Like I said, maybe because I was raised in a different time. But you have a guy who's running for president, who becomes president, and says that, hey, I love the uneducated voter. I mean, as an American, shouldn't that worry you? In other words, what he's saying is that he can get over on you because you don't know a damn thing. Therefore, he can fool you and make a fool of you. It's just something to think about. So now we're going to wrap it up and go home and watch the news and see what's going to happen with old Diddy here and his abuse, violence, and depravity. Folks, we have to start doing better. We have to do better than this. We really do. Listen, I'm going to catch you folks next week. Same time, same place, same channels. God bless you. Take care. Keep reading. And take care of each other. Peace.